Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another third-party unlicensed 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at the Mime Joker from Batman 89 by CyberX. Now you may be sitting there thinking, Justin, why on earth would anyone pick this up? You may as well just get the Hot Toys DX14. It's an official release, and it's this Joker. And yes, I totally understand. I have the original, and I love it. But for those of you out there who potentially are finding the price tag of DX14 to be a little bit prohibitive, this could be a worthy substitute, and I hope to answer that question, whether or not this guy is worth picking up, throughout the course of the video. Now, don't forget, this is third-party unlicensed, it's an unofficial product. I got mine from Comics Sanctorum. I have popped the link in the description below for your reference purposes only. This is not a promotional video, this is a review on a figure I picked up for my own personal collection. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art, and I absolutely love it. It's simple yet very effective. Joker up the top, a massive image of Jack Nicholson in the mime getup, the 89 Batmobile down below with the Joker's goon squad car following close behind, and then the Batwing up in the background, Joker on the side, and then a massive skull on the back of the box. I'm pretty sure that is the CyberX logo. For those of you who don't know, CyberX is a subsidiary of Young Rich Toys. Does that mean I'm potentially a little bit worried about the head sculpt? Yeah, just a little. We'll find out if those worries are warranted in just a second. The inside flap has another super classy image, the Joker's gloved hand with a Joker card. Is this potentially a hint at an upcoming museum version of the Joker? Because that is one I would absolutely love to add to the collection. Now, encased in this block of foam is the Mime Joker. I've actually never reviewed the original DX14 that this figure is based off on the channel. Do let me know if you'd like to see a retro review of him sometime down the line. But first in-hand impressions are surprisingly positive. My expectations were quite low. You do have one foam block up on top and another down below. What we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces. Now, starting off with the display base first, it's done in the usual Young Rich Toys style. It's a circular centerpiece style base. The Joker etched into a metal nameplate, his name on the side plus across the top, and a black and white image of Jack Nicholson. You also get a regular crotch grabber up on top. I have to say, I love that base. Now, to go along with the mime getup, you also get a top hat. It is made of a flexible rubbery type material. The only complaint I have here is there is a seam line that runs all the way across the top to the front and back. So, no matter which way you have this hat on his noggin, there will be a perfectly visible seam line running dead center. You also get a cane. It's a super simple design. It's literally black plastic with white up top and then in the middle section. He does come with a revolver. This pretty much has no paint to it whatsoever. The middle section can actually rotate and come out, and you can see some bullets have been sculpted but not painted in. Unfortunately, the hammer cannot move. Now, a pivotal part of the Mime Joker scene is the feather pen. Unfortunately, it's not super accurate. Here is the Hot Toys one for reference. I do appreciate the much bigger size, but the color scheme isn't right. Now, technically, the Hot Toys one isn't either. I looked up some reference images and it's actually supposed to be a rainbow feather. Now, that's something you can totally fix with some paint, but out of the box, that isn't accurate. You also get the flower that very nicely magnetizes in place onto his outfit, And lastly, a Joker card. Or is it? It's actually a Joker card sticker. I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to do with this. If it was an actual card, I could have him holding it, but as it stands, I guess you're supposed to stick it to something. Lastly, you get a full array of Joker hands. These are, in my opinion, a significant upgrade over the original in sculpt alone. What do I mean by saying that? Well, here is the original. The sculpt work, the texture on the surface looks awesome on the CyberX ones, whereas for Hot Toys they are just very smooth. Now that could be because CyberX are reusing these hands from something else, but either way, I love the way they look. I don't love the way they're painted though. I wouldn't have minded some washes down in the crevices because they do look a little bit too stark and pristine, especially on the back where I suppose that's supposed to be a button. Nevertheless, they are different sculpts from Hot Toys. What we are going to do now though is get the Joker himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him, standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And yeah, that's the Mime Joker. This guy actually turned out a lot better than I was expecting. I thought, to be totally honest, that he was going to be a train wreck. He has looked horrible in pictures and horrible in other videos. But trust me, when you get him in hand, if you spend a little bit of time working to his strengths, moving his eyes around to get it to look as good as possible, this guy might just surprise you. Even for someone like me, who has the DX14 already, I'm still having a ton of fun with this release. Is he better than the DX14? No, he isn't. I'm going to straight up be honest and tell you right now. The DX14 is the superior product, and I'll stick by that. But this guy might just work in your display if you don't have access to the original figure. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. Now, for the most part, I am pretty happy with how this guy turned out. He is fully decked out, wearing his top hat and his flower that nicely magnetizes to his pocket. They have made a few improvements over the original. Now, one thing that I don't necessarily love is how the hat fits. It sits a little bit high up on his forehead. I wouldn't mind if it's sandwiched down a little bit lower, and you'll see what I mean when we compare him back to the original later on in the video. As for the head sculpt though, it's on point. There is a ton of skin texture, you can make out the pores, there is a little bit of skin tone underneath the white, and I do like the vibrant red for the lips. The choice of green for the hair isn't too vibrant as well. There is a wash down in the crevices, and yes, you can detach the back part of his head sculpt and manipulate his eyes. There are two joysticks on the inside, so that means you can move one eye independently of the other. Now, I don't necessarily love doing this on camera just in case I make him look a little bit too goofy, but as you can see, you can pull off some very cheeky Joker expressions. That is an upgrade over the original. It also had purrs, but that meant if the eyes ever got out of alignment, which is a common issue with older Purrs figures, then there wasn't much you could do to rectify it. This one though, you can manipulate each eye individually, and I for one think that is a massive improvement. The outfit itself though is relatively basic. He is wearing a black suit jacket that does have the accurate tails around the back. I wouldn't have minded seeing some wires around the edges, because that's something the original lacked, but they decided to keep it simple. This jacket also does have real buttons sewn into the front. That will come into play a little bit later on. He then has this inner section, which is press-studded into place, and it's a little bit loose. As you can see, there is definitely a gap between the pants and this inner section. Now, you can pull the pants up a little bit higher to try and hide that gap, but that is definitely something you will see as the material bunches around the edges. Underneath that, he has a regular white business shirt, and then this big honkin' bow tie slash cravat piece. It is polka dotted, as you can see, and it nicely fits with the rest of his outfit. Now, coming down to his pants, they do look suitably accurate to the movie. They are a nice black and white checkered pattern, and then coming down to his shoes, he does have some quite high boots, plus some white spats over the top. Now, for the most part, from the knee up, this guy is fully padded. There is a fat suit going all the way up to his neck to try and give him a little bit more of a bulky look. The Hot Toys one also had a padded fat suit, but I don't know if it's as restrictive as this one is. Either way, so far, yeah, I'm pretty impressed. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the DX14 on the right versus the CyberX figure on the left. Now let me get this out of the way first. If you can afford DX14, get him. He is 100% worth it. The head sculpt is one of Hot Toys' best ever. The accessories are on point and accurate to the movie, might I add. He comes with a diorama backdrop and a diorama display base. All huge ticks from me. The CyberX figure is still a relatively decent substitute. If you find the DX14 out of reach, being because it's too expensive or simply unavailable in your country, then maybe the CyberX figure is worth a look. It's a great background figure. I don't think it's going to be anyone's main Joker in your collection. That probably goes to the purple suited Joker, the iconic look. But nevertheless, even with a couple of inaccuracies on the outfit, I'm still finding myself a little bit partial to the CyberX figure. There's something about the slightly larger body that makes him feel a little bit more modern. Either way, DX14 is clearly the superior product, but CyberX is no slouch. Next up, here we have 89 Batman alongside the CyberX Joker. And as you can see, he is a little bit shorter, but that also has to do with how tall the Joker's hat is and how high it sits on his head. Something that I keep bringing up, but it is important to note. Either way, I think these two can work very nicely together. I know it was Bruce Wayne that interacted with Joker in this scene and saw him doing his mime thing, but nevertheless, I have seen a lot of people display all of their 89 figures together, like I do, so yes, I think these two can still work in the same display. I have to say, I'm really enjoying making this video because it's been years since I've taken some of these 89 releases out of the display, which is a darn shame because they are some fantastic figures. This regular 89 Joker is incredible. He's one of my favorite figures of all time. Now, there will be a third-party version of him coming out sometime in the near future by a company known as Mars Toys, so I'm super curious to see how he turns out, as there are a couple of other looks for the Joker in the movie that I'm hoping to pull off in the display. Nevertheless, these two look really good together. I don't think that if you have this regular purple suited Joker and you pick up the CyberX Mime figure, that they're going to look out of place standing side by side in the collection. In fact, I think they complement each other very nicely. Except for the hat. I do still think that hat sits way too high on the CyberX Joker. Now for a much closer up comparison, here we have the official once again on the right and the CyberX release on the left. Now at first glance they do look eerily similar as we noted earlier, but there are some subtle and some not so subtle differences. Starting off with the hat. As you can see on the original, it sits right above his ear where the hair kind of parts over the top of it. The CyberX one though, his hat sits comically high. It's all the way up here. It should sit down along the top of his ear, just like the official. You could potentially heat the hat up in a cup of boiling water and then push it down over the head sculpt, being careful not to scratch the paint applications, mind you, and then you may have an end result that looks closer to the figure on the right. As for the sculpt itself, a lot of people did think originally it was the exact same sculpt that CyberX just recast. I can't unequivocally say that it is. It could be, and I could just be wrong, but the eyes are a lot bigger on CyberX, and the skin texture and placement of the wrinkles is also significantly different. Which do I prefer out of the two? I'm of course leaning towards the Hot Toys one. I think it's one of their best head sculpts ever, but the CyberX is no slouch. There is one other inaccuracy though on the upper torso, and it's the shirt. As you can see with the official, it kind of just pokes up over the top of his bow tie, where on the CyberX figure, it's just a normal shirt. This is inaccurate to the movie. It's supposed to look like this. Now, the suit jacket also has a ton of texture on the surface that I think you can make out, whereas on CyberX it simply isn't there. I do prefer the magnetic flower on CyberX versus this little pin, and I also prefer the real buttons on his jacket versus these, which are simply stuck on. However, I do think the proportions look better on the original. You don't have this weird gap between this inner section and his white shirt. The Hot Toys outfit is a lot more form-fitting. The pants do look pretty much exactly the same between the two. They might billow out slightly more on the original. Then coming down to the boots, I'm pretty sure this is a direct recast, but once again, I could be wrong. The colours are slightly different, with Hot Toys coming across a little bit more of a yellowy white, whereas CyberX is a little bit more crisp and clean. Do let me know though, if you don't have the original on the right, would this guy on the left be something that interests you, or would you just save up and get the DX14? Now, while we're still zoomed in doing comparisons, there's one key hand that's missing from the CyberX figure, and it's this one. This is the Hot Toys DX14 hand on the right, holding the slightly more accurate feather pen, and as you can see, he comes with a hand perfectly suited to do just that. But because CyberX decided not to recast the DX14 hands, you're left with this, kind of like a gripping hand of sorts with a hole in the top that you simply slide the feather pen into. I guess it works, but it's nowhere near as accurate as this one right here. Just a bit of an interesting update that I discovered while filming. If you have the Hot Toys Joker hat, it does fit on and sit perfectly where it should, just above his ears. So I suppose that in the making of the CyberX hat, something went wrong and it was slightly undersized, because it definitely isn't supposed to sit as high as this. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I am willing to go. Now starting off with the head sculpt, it is on a fixed neck with a ball joint at the base of said neck. It does look forward and back pretty much the full way, swivel and pivot side to side. The arms will go up to there. They will of course go forward and back. They are on soft ratchets, a butterfly joint at the shoulder, swivel at the bicep, a double bend at the elbow that does go way past 90, and a regular 1/6 scale wrist peg. The torso does crunch forward and back, however there is a ton of padding underneath the outfit, so it's a little bit more restricted. Swivel and then a teeny amount of pivot side to side. The legs go forward to about there as the padding ends right above the knee. They go out to there. Swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend at the knee that does go past 90, and of course a double ball peg down here for the ankle. Just wrapping up on the CyberX Mime Joker. Now going into this, my expectations were astronomically low. CyberX had yet to impress me with their figures based off real world people. Is this guy the one that has flipped the switch and shown that yeah, they can actually do some pretty decent work? Yes, I'm pleased to report that he is. He is great. Is he perfect? No. There are a couple of things where there are inaccuracies here and there, and the head sculpt from certain angles doesn't look as good as the original. I totally agree. The hat also sits way too high up on his head. But other than that, this guy is a suitable stand-in for the official DX14. If, for whatever reason, you can't justify picking him up, this guy works. And he looks good while doing it. The accessories are on point. I love the display base. And for those of you who like to display your box art, you can't get any more iconic than the images printed on the front of this guy's box. But where it really matters though, the head sculpt, this guy delivers. The skin texture, the pores, the paint applications, and the individually movable eyes, they all get ticks from me. This, in my opinion, is CyberX's best work to date. I'm curious to see if they tackle any other characters from Batman 89. I would love to finally get a Michael Keaton Bruce Wayne from that movie. I know we got one from Hot Toys in the 2-pack from Batman Returns, but I'd love to get a Michael Keaton from Batman 89, and also the museum scene Joker. Nevertheless, yeah, this guy is worth picking up if you've been waiting for the longest time to get a mime Joker. With that being said, he is still third party, he's an unofficial product. I got mine from Comics Sanctorum. I have popped the link in the description below for your reference purposes only. This is not a promotional video, this is a review on a figure I picked up for my own personal collection. While you're down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.